All right, guys. What's going on? It's Sincere here with whoissincere.com and the All Rights Matter show, hosted by Anon Radio Live. We have an emergency broadcast actually coming to you. Today we have on Brandon Curtis again, who's the head of the Idaho Three Percenters. His organization is out there in Oregon right now, helping those ranchers out that are occupying the ranch, and we want to bring him back on. He has some breaking, new, interesting developments for us. So let's get prepared to receive him. Are you there, Brandon?
I'm here. How you doing this evening?
All right, Brandon. How are you doing, brother?
Doing good, man.
Okay, I was talking to my show's producer, and she said you guys have some really interesting things going on out there right now, and, regarding I guess from our first show last week, for our viewers or listeners that didn't hear, our first show last week, we went over all the basics. So I'm gonna encourage you guys to go ahead and listen to that first show. Brandon came on and gave us an hour of his time and walked us through very generously all the basics of what's going on out there in his role and his organization's role. But what we want to focus in on this show is ever since that interview last week, there's been a, a change kind of in the atmosphere in that location in Oregon, where the FBI relations are starting to deteriorate a little bit. The fire chief has stepped down, but there's new developments there. So Brandon is going to walk us through some of that. Brandon, what's the biggest thing that actually happened within this last week? A big update you can give our listeners.
Well, the biggest update, which helped bring a lot of light to some different things within the community members that live there, is the fire chief resigning from his position and stepping down.
Hmm. And why? For our listeners out there, why exactly did the fire chief? Who's been there for quite some time, I believe, in that area. If I'm not mistaken, he's been there for, I believe, close to 30 years.
Yeah, I believe he started in the mid '70s in that area. He was on the EMS crew, and then he bounced over to the fire department, took on the fire chief's position, and he's been there for he's been a resident, I believe, all his life, but has been there for in the county at some sort of public service servant level. As an EMS most of that time.
Wow. Okay, so he's in the county, then, very respected. Then he's not somebody, he's somebody, when you go to the store, I believe the population there is a little under 10,000. So when you go to the store and you see the fire chief, you know exactly who he is, and he probably knows who you are.
Oh, absolutely. And even before this incident happened with the fire chief, I had the pleasure of meeting him and talking to him quite a bit with our visits over there. And he's just a really, really nice guy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, normally gentlemen in his position, I think a lot of people out there tend to get a sour taste in their mouth when they hear about politicians or people in government and stuff like that, and especially with everything going on with you guys. And I think it's just notable that you guys can still say that people that were a part of the establishment are still good people, because it's not about your title, but it's about your actions. And this gentleman, the fire chief there, sounds like a man of solid actions. And just if you can give us a little bit of background as far as why did he step down, and what are the new developments surrounding that?
Well, the fire chief was actually one of the committee of safety members that was nominated and put in place for the committee of safety that they formed several weeks ago. And what the committee is, I won't go a lot of history on the committee of safety, but just for the listeners who don't know what that is, that's a committee that's put together by peers of the community, if you will, kind of a trusted committee that is the liaison between the committee members, or the community, the county, the city, whatever it may be, and the county officials. So that's what that role does. So he was on that committee, and he is also was an employee of Harney County EMS, the fire department EMS. So he was absolutely an employee of the county. He wanted to reserve and rent the fairgrounds building over at the fairgrounds there in Burns for a town hall meeting. And during that town hall meeting and the committee of safety meeting, they wanted to bring Ammon Bundy in down from the refuge to start engaging in conversations with him to come up with a resolution for this problem. And when the judge heard about this, well, let me back up. He actually did reserve and pay for the reservation and the fee to use the fairgrounds building. So he reserved it. He was on the list. He paid for it.
Okay.
When the judge found out about this of Harney County, Judge Grasty, Stephen Grasty, he actually called Chris, the fire chief, into his office and told him that he was not going to allow him, as an employee of the county or anyone else associated with Ammon Bundy or the Committee of Safety, to further use any county property or buildings, period. He was banning that. And told him that's how it was going to be. Chris, the fire chief, told him he could not do that. That was actually against the law.
Yeah, that is against the law.
It is against the law. It's actually also against Oregon state law. And the judge berated him, said something to the effect of, you're nothing more than a washed-up old man, something to that effect, berated him verbally. And the fire chief said, well, as effective immediately, I'm resigning from my position as fire chief, and I'm going to go tell my story. And he left the judge's office in the courthouse, got in his vehicle, and drove right up to the refuge during their 11 o'clock daily press conference and got in front of national media and told his story.
Wow. See, I believe we were touching on this the last time. That's some of the power that solidarity has. And when people see the crooked actions and behaviors of even people that they've been working alongside of for a massive amount of time. I mean, he's probably been working alongside of that guy, the judge, probably for just as long as he's been in working with the EMS and fire department. So just having the solidarity of the unity of the people at the refuge, that showed him, wait a second, hold on, there's something wrong here. These people are American citizens. They haven't been charged with a crime, and they simply want to speak. That's all. Just speak in a public place where the taxpayers have paid for it. The judge didn't pay for it. Really, the judge should have no say-so who rents out the building. But the taxpayers paid for it, and it should be an open platform for anybody that wants to come and speak and address, the people. And, it's a free thing for the people to decide. It's not like they're required to show up. If you don't want to listen to Ammon Bundy speak, you don't have to go. So if you do want to listen to him, though, you should have that freedom to be able to go listen to him, because he should have the freedom to be able to be there. So, I see where the judge definitely overstepped his boundaries of authority, and he, this is something, unfortunately, we see a lot, though. We see a lot of good people minimized through government, especially through judges, the judges' friends, which are lawyers, and other people, straight on down the line. So I commend the fire chief for actually standing up for you guys and actually standing up for himself. He's not just some old man that doesn't have a stake in what's going on. He's one of the many residents of the county and a prominent resident of the county that understands what's going on, and he's not going to keep allowing this to go on when he sees that there's a clear path to resolution, but the judge just doesn't want to hear it.
Right, and the judge has been in place, I believe, for 18 years, and he has conditioned the citizens in the community to where he can control them with power and fear by using these type of tactics, and he's abusing a power he doesn't even have, and that's the irony here, is he doesn't have the authority to tell the county employee who is guaranteed the right by under Oregon law to be able to use that facility or any other citizen. It's mind blowing. The only thing he has the authority to do is in his courtroom. He's not the employees of the county's boss. It's my understanding he also sits on the commissioner. He's also a county commissioner, which in itself is a conflict of interest.
Yes, it is.
So that's something else we're digging into.
Sounds like a small little dictatorial town there.
It is, yeah. And this guy has definitely tried to control the narrative over the years, no matter what it is, by using power and fear, and it just and abusing the people, and it's absolutely trampling all over their First Amendment rights and their right to assemble, and
Well,
that's
I,
not okay.
well, I tell you what, I believe that he's not doing that by himself, and maybe you can touch in on this. You know, you get some judges out there that are rogue judges. They act in any kind of way that they see fitting to act towards anybody, at any time. So I don't think that this judge in particular is a rogue judge. I think he's probably somebody that, for a lack of better words, he's probably somebody that has the federal government on his right shoulder saying, hey, do this. Hey, do this. So, what do you think about that? Do you think that the federal government is possibly working with the judge and maybe even guiding him?
I have no doubt that's what they're doing. I think the judge has many special interest groups that are padding his pockets.
Uh,
Those are some of the things we're working on, and we are actively investigating him. We have a full investigation and intelligence team, and they're digging, and we are uncovering some things. Something as simple as him spending. He told me when him and I met a few weeks ago. He spent over 4,000 hours trying to get the sage grouse on the endangered species list in his county, and he was upset that it didn't happen. He was upset that the citizens stood up against that in his community and pushed back at that time. And my question to him was, why would you take a stance to put a bird on the endangered species list that would put thousands of acres out of ranching business in your own county? And he didn't have an answer for that. And my next question to him was, so what environmentalist group is padding your pockets to do this? You have to be making a financial gain from this. And those are the types of things we're trying to track and we're trying to track down.
Well, I think that's something notable to track down because what we see a lot of happening a lot today in government is organizations and corporations are teaming up with the government. So the government has a proxy. They don't have to, somebody from a federal office doesn't have to step down, talk to the judge and say, hey, this is what we want you to do. We want you to put this bird on the endangered species list. Instead, an organization as representative of the government's values and tied into the government, for lack of better words, in bed with the government, an organization will approach an individual and put that pressure on an individual to be that proxy, that buffer zone between the actual government and the individual. So I think we see a lot of that happening, and for our listeners that are out there, that's what Brandon means when he says special interest groups. He's talking about specifically those organizations and corporations that would pad the pockets of politicians to get the kind of outcomes they want, whether it supports their cause or the government's cause.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's, the saying, follow the money. There's always something to that, and it makes no sense otherwise. And as these things are starting to come out, the community now is starting to ask questions of the judge and call his office, and they're over there knocking on the door of the courthouse, but they got the courthouse on lockdown. It looks like a war zone over there. They got these big generators with floodlights on it. They put cyclone fencing up all around with 24/7 guards. It looks like a war zone around the sheriff's department courthouse.
And who's paying for all of that?
Well, it's tax money. It's absolutely tax money that's paying for all that, and it's completely unneeded. But what it's doing, that's instilling more fear in the community.
I'm sorry, the tax money is paying to keep the same residents that live there that are paying the tax money. It's paying to keep them out of the same chambers they should be allowed in to express their grievances and concerns.
Yes, exactly right, sir. That's exactly what they're doing. And since we've been in town, they're not able to reach out to the judge or the sheriff, and they're not able to go knock on the door of the sheriff's department or their county resources to answer, to get answers to the questions they have. So they're calling us. they're turning to us for questions, and they're learning that we're good people and we're a good organization, and we have the truth to share with them, and they're listening. And so it's almost a blessing that they're not, that
Yeah.
they're being pushed over to us. And I told the judge that 2 weeks ago. I said, you really need to make yourself more available. You're hiding behind your desk to create fear, and you're pushing the people in the community right to us to be able to have these conversations with them, or we're going to share whatever it is we find.
Yeah, whether you guys get a building or not, it doesn't stop the conversation from flowing.
Exactly. It just happens more on a one-on-one versus 100 or 200 at a time.
Which is, in my personal experience, one on one is always a lot more powerful. You get a lot more accomplished that way. So, 30, 40, 50 meetings of one on one, they're going to bring the next 150 people with them. So, um, his actions are, but this is just like the government. This is what they do. So when a big situation happens, they come out that day or the next day, and they have their official narrative, which they've all sat around at the round table and discussed of how they want to put this out to the public. That's exactly what they did. They put out their official narrative. The mainstream media rolled with that official narrative. Now, I guess what we're starting to see, especially after the fire chief stepped down, is a rollback of that official narrative because now they don't know where to go with it. And now with the sheriff also, not the sheriff, the judge actually shutting down, and pretty much he's run out of ammunition. That's what it boils down to. The judge has run out of ammunition. With him running out of ammunition, they don't have a narrative anymore. They now you guys are literally starting to win the communication battle. That's where the fight really starts in the first place, is in the mind and in the hearts before there's any quote unquote boots on the ground. So now that you guys are winning, that battle, maybe you can give us an insight on the tension that situation is actually causing because they know they're losing. Has the FBI ramped up any of their have they done any patrols in the area recently? What is the FBI doing in particular? Because we talked about that the last time, and you guys were bold when you went over there, and you gave them your articles of resolution, and you confronted them one on one without brandishing any weapons, and you just popped up at their quote unquote secret compound. So, has the FBI stepped up any of their methods of action in the area?
Yeah, I mean, not so much their method of action, more their posturing. They become a little bit more aggressive. One of the media guys actually went out to the airport compound where they're held up at day before yesterday, and he went up to the front gate, and he was encountered by some very large, muscular FBI agents that were very aggressive with him. And when that media person started to question them and back him down, the first thing they did was remove those guys from the gate and brought out the guys that were the nicer talking guys, not as aggressive looking, because they realized there was cameras and it's a public image. So you can see the psyops that they're working, but they are posturing up. There is more manpower on the ground, and for when they bring in more manpower, so do we. And we are watching them very closely. They are starting to go where we're going in town, and taking photos and following us around, and that's okay. We expect that, but we're doing that to them too. We're taking photos of every FBI agent. We have them, their vehicles they drive, license plate numbers. We're doing the exact same thing because we're also watching them very closely to make sure that they operate as they're supposed to and don't violate anyone's rights. They should not be posturing in an aggressive manner. The only one that's posturing up in an aggressive manner with firearms to show force is the FBI at this time.
Yes, yes, and that sounds just like them. You don't hear much about the FBI using tactics to be able to talk to people. They have a lot of toys and technology to do the opposite of talking to individuals. So, now that you know that the FBI is posturing up, and as you quoted, both sides are bringing in more people now, and I'm sure both sides are watching each other closely. Maybe you can give us an idea, like what would be the next step as far as because I'm sure the mission is still the same, is to open up those communication channels to whoever can bring some resolution to this issue. So I'm sure you haven't been contacted by the higher ups from the FBI as you requested once you turned in those articles of resolution. So you're not getting the communication there. You're not getting the communication from the judge anymore. Where does the group go now? How do the lines of communication get opened again? Because pretty soon, what I see happening is a lot of the townspeople are going to, those who haven't already converted over to supporting you guys are going to convert to supporting you guys, and there'll literally be a whole uprising for the whole town. Even though the refuge is 30 minutes away, I believe that the town is starting to get a little bit antsy, and with their local government shutting them out, how do you guys see opening up these lines of communication again?
Well, and you actually hit the nail on the head. It's the court of public opinion, right? So what we're seeing is, because the community is now starting not to get answers, they're seeing no progress made. They're actually, what we're all seeing, the communication is deteriorating less and less. The call that the FBI promised me a call back when we spoke last week, they promised me a call back when the articles resolution got passed up the chain. Just it was a simple call back to let us know we passed it up. That never happened.
That was over a week ago.
That never happened. So, and that's no surprise. But what we're seeing is now the community members are now going out to where the FBI is, and they're asking them to leave. They're asking them to go up and talk to the Ammon Bundy and his guys up there to start engage in a conversation, because a lot of the community members now, another week later, a lot of them have gone up there and spoke to Ammon and seen what's really going on at the refuge, and they see it's not what the media is portraying. They see it's not what the judge is portraying, or the sheriff or the FBI. And when they see what's really going on, and they go up there and they see that there's not a bunch of weapons, and there's not, I've never even seen Ammon Bundy with a firearm on him. So that tells you how peaceful it really is, right? So when they come back into town and see the FBI geared up the way they are, they see the truth behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, I want to key in on something. I did see something. I caught an article, I believe, over this weekend, and it caught my attention. I saw that one of the people actually left the refuge in a federal vehicle, went to a grocery store, I believe, and was arrested.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm laughing because that was probably the most ridiculous thing they could do.
Yeah, when I read it, I was like, wait, you guys can't find another reason to do anything. So what you'll do is you'll stop the guy that's, just going to the store and say that, oh, okay, well, we'll arrest you for unofficial use of a federal vehicle. Well, that happens every day. I was in the Army, and we used to get cars from the motor pool, and if we had errands to run or whatever, I'd go to Walmart in a heartbeat to get something from Walmart. And I know many other brass that did it. I knew many other generals that did it. This is kind of a thing. If you have a vehicle from the federal government, you're not doing anything you're not injuring it if you're going to the store to go get some food or supplies or something like that. So it just really goes to show that they have nothing left, and they're going to resort to petty things.
Oh, absolutely. And hey, even though I don't condone taking the vehicles and driving around town, let's break that down. So no criminal charge has been filed against anybody, but yet the vehicles up there were reported stolen, is my understanding, what came across the radio, because we were monitoring the radio traffic from the sheriff's department over there.
Okay.
And I don't know what basis they would be reported stolen, since they never left the refuge to begin with. So they're really stolen. So that's, all around Department of Health and Welfare Services in your state, or at a federal level, or Child Protection Services, when they have the vehicles that they're checked out. I worked for, as a police officer, I worked for a city entity in the state, and it's widely abused. So
yes,
start arresting them too. Start arresting them too then, right? That's the issue. It's such a double standard.
Oh yeah, it's a major double standard. You can go any day of the week and see a police officer, you know, doing personal errands and stuff like that. So it's something that there's a little bit of leniency that we've allowed in our culture for that, and there should be leniency for that. We shouldn't be some draconian kind of culture where we're like, standing over everybody's every move and making them do a mileage check-in, a GPS locator to make sure they're not doing anything, uh, you know, illegal, like going to the grocery store. So,
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's not something I'd advise any of those guys that drive those vehicles around. But
absolutely,
I mean, but come on, you're right. They're going to the grocery store. If they want to play that game, let's start following around the state employees and the federal employees and see what they're doing with those vehicles and see what it's truly costing the taxpayers in mileage and fuel
yeah.
expenses.
I I um I read another. I don't know if you know about this one. I read this a few days ago too. There was a second arrest that was actually made from a guy that was actually I forget his name now. A guy that was actually at the refuge. He went back home and he was in the car with a buddy, and he was not the driver. He was the passenger, and he actually got arrested. He had a warrant out for his arrest magically. Have you heard anything updates about that?
I did not hear about that arrest at all. I've heard of two arrests. The one in the van, and then there was a gentleman that I actually had contact with when he got back into Burns. He was actually pulled over coming in from Idaho. He was en route from Montana, so he's coming through Idaho. He was just outside of Burns, Oregon, and he got stopped for a burnt out license plate light. And here's what I would like to know. I would like to go through all the officers' traffic stop logs and see how many times people have been stopped for in Burns, Oregon in the past for license plate lights, right? So he was pulled over for that. In turn, had a suspended license. He had a possession of a firearm as a felon, which I don't condone, but how many times are they stopping people for license plates lights? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're using these things now to create a show of force. The
Yeah.
other thing I noticed, and he was ultimately arrested, so that's the second arrest that I know of for sure, and that's factual because I spoke to him and saw all this paperwork.
Well, we also know that you know, the reason why they do that is to, and this whole, driver's license system, that system in itself is an illegal system.
It's
Um,
unconstitutional.
yeah, it's unconstitutional. We all pay for these streets. We all pay for the roads to be able to travel, to be able to do the things that are necessary. And you don't really need a license to be able to do that. Because we don't have much time today, I won't go much into it, but I'll just let our listeners know the driver's license program across the whole United States is unconstitutional. It's not right. If you don't have a driver's license, or if they're not allowing you to have a driver's license, and you still pay for those roads and you still pay for those streets for 30, 40, 50, 60 years of your life, that's unconstitutional. The same roads and streets that you can't enjoy the same as everyone else. So, it that's what they do when they want to start clamping down on groups or organizations. Is that's the first thing they'll do is they'll restrict the travel. We have that going on right now with our airlines, but more particularly right there in Burns, Oregon, you have it going on because if they can restrict the travel, restrict the flow, and start cutting off the routes for people to come into the refuge or people that come out of the refuge for them to get back, then that's how I believe, in my opinion, that's how they're going to start rolling.
Yeah, I mean, we have a constitutional right to freely travel unrestricted. And that's the key word, travel unrestricted. And people need to be aware of that. And you're right, that's like a whole nother radio segment to get into, but
Oh
you're
yeah.
absolutely right.
Oh yeah. Okay. I kind of want to also go over something else. I was talking. My show's producer, she filled me in very quickly on a few details, but she said something about you having some coffee and being encountered by some gentlemen.
Say that one more time.
She said something about you having some coffee and being encountered by some gentlemen.
Oh yeah. So every morning we go down and have coffee at a specific place there in town, and we invite the community to come down. We've invited the FBI and the sheriff's office as well. To be fair, to open dialogue. That's what this whole mission is about: to open dialogue for resolution.
That's fair.
So we've invited them all to come down and talk to us. Sunday mornings, several of the FBI agents came in there, and the first three that came in were pretty nice. They spoke to us. They shook our hands, but as more of them came, some of our guys in our groups went up to say hi, and they literally just turned their backs and just completely stonewalled, shunned, and ignored them. It was very interesting, and you can see that posturing I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's where it's headed, and it's really unfortunate.
I believe it's all a psyop for them. I believe that they already have an endgame plan. And uh, being able to keep tabs and monitor you guys is definitely a part of that end game plan. Do you think that maybe they're taking these open opportunities and these great opportunities that you're giving these people? Do you think maybe they're taking those opportunities and actually utilizing them for their own benefit to maybe try to extract information so they can just get to their end goal instead of really trying to sit down at the table and hash this out?
Oh, absolutely, I have no doubt. And the thing with the FBI is they run two narratives. They run the narrative they want the public to see. We're here to support the sheriff. We're here for this reason. It's a kinder, gentler narrative. And then they have the real narrative, which is going on in the background that they're absolutely not transparent about. And that's what we're seeing now: the posturing, the way they're handling things, the way they're treating the citizens, the way they're treating the media, the way they're treating us. And that's what we're seeing. We're also seeing that starting to come out with the sheriff's department. We drove through that town on our patrols all weekend, all week, every day, and we're seeing them pull people over for, like I said before, license plate lights, and they're pulling over citizens of the county, and they're using 2-3 units to stop one car. So you'll have 3 police cars lined up with their lights on for license plate light, and that's creating fear, and that's a show of force.
Fear.
That's escalating.
Yeah, fear and force. You got it.
And it's really unfortunate because what you're seeing them do that to is the actual community members. And there isn't a single store or business or place that I go in that community that someone has not shared that story with me. We were in a store there, and for the sake of privacy, I'm not going to say which store or who said it. Young lady, though, very, very young lady, late teen, said she was driving a family member's pickup truck that was a big diesel, and they just assumed because it's a big diesel truck that the local law enforcement for sure thought she was a militia member, as they put it, and they cornered her in the parking lot and blocked her in with 3 police cars. I mean, that's what we're seeing going on.
Wow. Mm-mm-mm. So they don't want to talk.
It certainly does not seem that way.
No, it doesn't seem that way at all. Now, when are you guys looking to finish your investigation into the judge? Are we going to be looking at seeing some information about that this week, or maybe next week or something?
Oh man, I wish we would have had it out already. But as we dig deeper, the more the information comes out. Even tonight, I got a call from a gentleman who grew up in Burns, Oregon, and shared his story with me. And he grew up with the judge, and he shared some very good information. So more stuff is coming out the further we dig, and the more complex it gets. So we're hoping to have something out, I would say, in the next week or 2 at most. But we keep just uncovering things, which causes us to dig even further.
Okay, I hear that. Well, I tell you what, if I can offer any kind of a word of advice, if you guys even put the information out in sections, that would probably protect you even a little bit more. And just to give them a taste of where you're going with this. You know what I mean? So you don't put out everything at one time. You just put out a little bit of the information. And it also it raises that protective barrier a little bit, that insulated barrier, because I have no doubt in my mind, not one single doubt at all, that the FBI is listening right now, that possibly that sheriff and judge are listening right now. So they already know that they're on the hook. And if they know that they're on the hook, their aggressive measures, I'm sure, are not going to die down anytime soon. So, you guys, I'm sure you have everything under control. But look, at Anon Radio Live, we're anxious to get that information out. So if you want to, put a piece of it out anytime later on this week, to get it out a little bit earlier, let us know. We'll definitely bring you on so that you can get that information out there, because the world needs to know what's really going on. They don't need to follow the official narrative given by Fox, MSNBC, CNN, any of those mainstream actors. We don't need that, quote unquote, official narrative happening. So we need the real words from people on the ground, the real emotions, the real actions, what's really going on. And we always welcome you to give us that story.
And that's a great idea, and we will absolutely do that. One of the things we pride ourselves on with the 3% of Idaho is always operating on facts. So when we get these phone calls like I got this evening, and these people share these stories, we want the documentation and factual facts.
That's right.
And as we get those, I think that's a great idea is we'll break those up, get with you guys, and get that out in segments.
That's right. That's right. Hey, and you guys are doing a great thing on the social media there. I'd like for you to give our listeners. Actually, let me, before you give us any plugs or anything, let me ask you this: is there any other information that you wanted to get out today? Anything else that we can help you, get to the people's ears so that they can understand even more what's going on, or any more important updates that we can grasp more knowledge on?
Sure, absolutely. We get asked a lot, well, what's your role, or what are you guys doing? Are you staying at the refuge? Or are you not? So just to clear that up, we are a separate operation from Ammon and those guys up there at the refuge. We fully support what they're doing to get their message out and what they're standing for. We fully support that because it is bringing attention to the town and the community, which would not have been brought here before. Even though I've said, and we talked about last time, I don't support necessarily the way it was executed, but we're past that. We got to look beyond that, and at this point, it doesn't matter. They're there, and we're going to make sure those guys are safe, stay alive, to get that message out.
That's right.
Yeah, and the other thing that I want to clear up.
No more free Wacos.
No more free Wacos, and you saw the meme I made on my Facebook page. No more free Wacos. That's exactly what we're calling this operation. And we are going to be that security buffer to make sure those guys up there on the hill are safe. And just as the exact words we told the FBI, as long as they don't get stupid, we don't get stupid. And we're going to protect those guys. And we're also going to protect the community to make sure they're safe. We're going to protect other patriots to make sure they're safe. But we're also going to make sure the fringe element and the extremists don't come there with an ulterior motive. If that's why someone wants to come there,
the provocateurs. We don't want you to come there.
Absolutely, it's important. The other thing I want to clear up is a lot of the mainstream media is saying that the community, even the sheriff, is saying that the community doesn't want us there. I'm going to tell you from being there, and unless you are there standing in Burns, Oregon to see that for yourself, nobody has a right to make that opinion until they go there and see the community support that we're getting. The outpouring of support is overwhelming. We are in people's homes for meals. We were invited to the high school basketball game last weekend.
Oh, that's nice.
To go watch kids play basketball by the parents. We were invited by the community. It was great. So that's
really nice. Did you guys get a chance to partake in that?
Yeah, most of us did go. A few of us were on some details working, and not all of us could go, obviously, because we couldn't pull everybody off. But we made a great showing there, and we watched the basketball games, and it was great. The community, several of the parents in the community that have kids that go to the school there wanted us to come and see at the request of their kids. The kids requested us to come there. I mean, what's that say about being welcome there?
Brandon, can I ask you to do us a favor at Anon Radio Live? This would be a really great blessing, if you will, to the All Rights Matter show. Can I ask you for a favor?
You bet.
Okay, what I would like to see is, and this is what happens, and marketing is kind of, my world. What we already discussed this, we went over this a few minutes ago, but when the narrative comes out, of course, mainstream media wants to control the narrative because from the beginning, it's a psyop. And the way that they control that psyop is through visualizations and sounds, and that would be media. So they'll say the community doesn't support, and then they'll bring on one person out of 7,000 that says, "I don't know why these guys are here." That's a way to control the narrative. What I would like is a favor from you guys, so we can actually, once we do the YouTube after this show, we can actually put some pictures in our video to show, to literally show you guys integrated with the community. Is there a way that, if there's any more events like that, where you guys can actually take some pictures with some of the folks there from the community, if they don't mind?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great idea. I'd love to do that.
Okay, excellent. So we'll be looking forward to those pictures because it's important for us, as independent media folks, and also as you guys as an independent security detail for what's going on, to literally give the visualizations that are reality instead of the false narrative that's portrayed by the media, because they obviously want the nation to be against what's going on, because they want to keep their authority, they want to keep their control, and they want us to believe that the federal organization, the Bureau of Land Management, is completely in the right. When, those of us in the know, we know that they're completely in the wrong. So if we can balance their psyop with the reality of what's really going on, that'll be a lot more beneficial to the overall narrative.
Oh, absolutely. And the whole psyops thing, and if you really break this thing down and look at the way this is going, they really are trying to take this down a textbook narrative of Waco.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is, with the way the communication is breaking down, if you go look at how Waco went versus right now, the only thing that's different between the two, actually there's several differences, but the two main things that are different is technology today has the ability to have eyes everywhere, so we can watch them. We watch the FBI. We make them, they got to answer for their actions now because there's eyes everywhere.
Absolutely.
The other thing is we're now standing between them and the Patriots on the Hill. That didn't happen in Waco. And we will continue to do that and make sure that doesn't happen. And what is going on is the Patriot Movement, as you know, is growing at an exponential rate right now. And we're growing very quickly, and we're becoming stronger and stronger and stronger.
Internationally.
Absolutely internationally. I got a request emailed to me last week to help somebody start a 3% in the UK. They want to get a 3% organization set up in the UK.
I was just going to focus in on it. I was going to say I see the international support coming from all places, from Australia, Germany, you name it. Canada, it's coming in, and people are really they're paying close attention. But I believe the reason why people are paying close attention, and they're not even within our borders, is because this is a bigger problem, and I want our listeners to understand this. You got it here first at the All Rights Matter show if you didn't know it, but this is a global tyranny that's happening. Now, what's happening on the ground there in Oregon, that's a local issue. But that local issue is very representative of what's happening on a global scale. So you have a little mini issue that is resounding with people that are outside of our borders because they feel the same. They feel like 20, 30, 40 years ago, they used to own their land. Now everything is subsidized through the government. Their incomes are lower. Their quality of life has diminished. And they're starting to say, wait a second, what these guys are doing in Oregon is what I wish some of me and my fellow countrymen would do, stand up for our rights and say, no, we're not going to allow this tyranny to continue, to go forward until we have nothing left, including land or rights. So your voice there and the groups and organizations that are in coalition with you guys there is resounding to these people because they feel that. They actually feel it, and it tugs at their heart, and they say, wait a second, if only we could be so bold, if only we could have so much courage to stand up and be so organized and professional about it, maybe we'll get some results too. So do you see this incident that you guys are currently involved in, do you see this starting to replicate not just in the United States but also in other countries?
Well, yes, and we're getting the requests. I did a live stream here about a week ago on site over in Burns, through the Peace and Tilly show, and I put the offer out there of anyone that wanted to help, no matter where you're at, we would help you structure a 3% organization like we do, and do it professionally with structure, transparency, things like that. And the response has been overwhelming, huge. I didn't expect the response I got, including from other countries. But more importantly, the residents of Harney County in Burns, Oregon, they are forming their own with my guidance and Idaho 3% guidance. They are forming a 3% organization within just the county. And the Oregon 3% organization is going to help them do that as well. But they're going to do it right there, and they're going to stand up, which is the most exciting thing, that they're going to do it. And they came over, they met me at my hotel last weekend and said, "Hey, we want to do this." And I was like, "All right, let's do it." That's exciting when you see the community going to take a stand. It only takes one loud voice, one bold loud voice, and others will follow. And I'm going to put this out there for everybody. We will be that loud voice for you. We will go forward. And I have received death threats. I have received threats of harm to my family, myself, and our organization. And I'm here to tell you that's not going to stop me. It won't stop me. It won't deter me. So all you guys out there doing that, it's a waste of time and a waste of breath, because it just pushes me harder.
We know, we know who's doing it.
We do, absolutely. That's why I'm not scared, and we're not going to stop.
Yeah, yeah. So and you don't stop, and those are only scare tactics to get you to look at your wife or your child and to say, hey, wait a second, maybe this is the wrong move to stick up for our freedom. But you guys are smart enough, especially as a unit. You understand that there is no other time. If you don't do it this time and you don't follow through with this time, this could possibly be the last time.
Right, and it could always be the last time. That's why you have to take every situation, every time that you have the ability to do something like we're doing here in Burns, Oregon, or just as something as what you think is as little as speaking to someone about the Constitution, educating them, because those are all tools for the bigger picture to help win this country back, return it to a constitutional state, because we truly are in a constitutional crisis right now, and we have to restore this country. We have to. We don't have a choice. If our children want to grow up with freedoms, we have to do it.
That's right. That's right. It is very true that we grew up with less freedoms than our forefathers. So, and if that system continues to prevail, by the time our children become adults and their children become adults, they will have no freedoms.
No, absolutely. And the thing with this Burns, Oregon thing, if you go to Burns, Oregon, you spend any time there, and I've been through there lots, and I spent a lot of time there before this whole thing happened, because they're just down the road from us, and it's one of the ways we go through anywhere you travel to the west. That whole area over there is truly, if you look at it, the ranches and the farmers and the way that lifestyle is, that's truly what our country was built on. The backbone of this country is what is sitting over there, and it's really sad to see it being just torn away from, 3 and 4 generations deep into these ranches in this land. And it's just being taken away, and it's going to happen everywhere.
If you can, I want to focus in on that. If you can, you guys have been invited into the homes. I mean, this is personal. You've been invited into the homes of the residents. People don't invite you in their homes unless they're comfortable with you. I know, because I don't invite hardly anyone in my home. So,
yeah, our homes are our most sacred place.
Exactly. So, if you've invited it into the homes, can you share with our listeners just any of the, a brief story of any of those fellow ranchers that are in the area? You don't have to give their, names or anything, but can you share to us what some of their concerns are?
Well, their concerns are, if it doesn't stop now, it's going to be, so-and-so's ranch next, or so-and-so's farm next, and then after that it'll be just somebody else's, and it's just this big monster just gobbling everything up. And that's the same story we hear over and over. And when we get invited to these homes, we take it so it's such an intimate conversation, and we take it so personal because their home is their sacred place. It's their for them to invite us in there. They truly know they feel safe with us there. It's a level of trust, and we take that very seriously. And I'm going to tell you, hearing these stories about the generations and the ranches and the land that's being taken and how they can barely survive now and they've been under this oppression of the BLM and the Forest Service and whatever three-letter agency you want to say.
Yeah.
And they're telling you the story with the tears in their eyes. And I'm telling you, we've laughed with them, we've cried with them, and we have, prayed with them. And that's what it's about. And people say, well, you're there for attention, you're there for fame, you're there for this. We're not. That's why we're there. And when you see that happen and you look in their eyes and they have tears in their eyes and they say, thank you. We didn't have the voice, or we were scared, or we were fearful, but thank you for doing this because now we want to stand. There's no better feeling and no better justification for why you should be there doing that. And that's what every true red-blooded American needs to understand and feel that. And that lights a fire within you that makes you just want to keep going. And it has nothing to do with attention, it has nothing to do with fame, because I'm away from my children when we're doing that. I'm on the road. I'm staying in a hotel room. Those are things I don't like to do for attention. And I invite anybody down there to experience the same thing who says that we're there for attention or any ulterior motive. I'll be happy to let you step in and get in front of the cameras yourself or on a radio show and truly see what it's about, because it's not for attention.
No. It's there's a million other ways to get attention, and one of those ways, just briefly, is called YouTube. Do something crazy, put it on YouTube, you have attention. So this is obviously not for attention, and folks out there that are listening, you need to know that. You need to take heed to that and understand that this is way bigger than attention. Does it deserve more attention than it has now? Absolutely. But the reason why it deserves attention is because it's for your freedom. It's not just for the guys and the girls that are occupying the ranch, or for the Hammonds, or any of the other local ranchers that are there in Burns, Oregon, or surrounding areas. This is for the freedom of average Americans across the board. Land grabs don't just happen in the West. Land grabs happen all over this country. They happen on a daily basis. Eminent domain has always been something that's been implemented by our government, and people are just whisked away, moved away, and the government does whatever they want with the land or the property. And if they're not whisked away and moved away, they're eventually by brute force forced out. So you guys, I'm just, my thoughts, my prayers, also my listeners, thoughts and prayers of the All Rights Matter show. We're all with you. We're all with 100% with everyone there on the ground doing the good work that we haven't been blessed with doing. You guys are carrying the burden of that, and it's not easy. I could tell you from being in the military, being away from family and people that you love and care dearly about in familiar environments. It takes a toll on the soul. It takes a toll on the pocket. And it's just, especially when you don't have an end date, you don't know when it's going to stop. So I tip my hat to you guys. I hope that somebody that's out there, creates a GoFundMe account for you guys, just to be honest with you, because I don't know how long these people are going to, not adhere to what you guys want to do, which is sit down and have a civil discussion. I see that, from what I see, in my opinion, they seem like they want to just push their narrative. And what's scary about them pushing their narrative is all the things you're telling us about the people of the area and how they feel, and that they're starting to come to the side of understanding that's clear to reality instead of propaganda. It's a scary situation, because you know that these people have their hands tied behind their back. You know that they've run out of psyop ammunition, if you will. So Now they're trying to really grasp and find anything that they can. So I want the listeners to know that if you see anything going on around there, know that the official, the quote unquote official narrative given by these mainstream media outlets that are out there, they're in cahoots with the government, the local government and federal government, and they're going to give you what they want you to hear. I want to let you know you come here to the All Rights Matter show, you listen to Brandon, and you listen to what he says about those people on the ground that are out there, because that's what really matters. Not some crap 15-second little minute clip that plays on CNN 30 times a day about, negativity. That's not what this is about. This is about positivity, and I believe you guys are a shining example of that.
Well, thank you. And I was watching the news this evening, and I couldn't help but just be overwhelmed with emotion and a lack of understanding, maybe is a better word. I remember the sheriff over in Harney County, one of the first comments he made was he doesn't negotiate with criminals when they said they wanted to sit down and come up with a resolution for the refuge. He said he doesn't negotiate with criminals. As I'm watching the news tonight, and I'm glad those 5 people, including Pastor Saeed, are home now. Pastor Saeed actually lives here in
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Who did you say that was? The sheriff?
Sheriff Ward.
Ward. Okay. All right.
Of Harney County. When this whole thing first started, Ammon Bundy said he wanted to sit down with him and come up with a resolution. One of the first comments he made by the sheriff was he does not negotiate with criminals. But as I'm watching the news, I'm glad those 5 people were released from Iran. Pastor Saeed actually lives just down the road from me here in Meridian. And I'm glad they're home. But we negotiated for 7 criminals and terrorists for those 5. And the sheriff and the FBI came and drive 30 minutes up a hill to sit down and talk to Ammon Bundy to negotiate the land that belongs to the people by the Constitution.
Wow.
And then not only did we negotiate 5 for 7, we gave them 1.3 or $4 billion on top of it for some back due interest or something. And then you know what Iran does? They turn around and kidnap 10 more of our soldiers.
Yeah.
And I just can't. It was a heavy heart. I have to be honest. It was a heavy heart as I'm watching this on the news tonight, because the sheriff can't even get in a patrol car that's owned by the county citizens, and drive up the hill and engage in a conversation for a peaceful resolution with Ammon Bundy. And it's just a sad day in America. That's where we're at.
Yeah, that is a sad day in America, and I really like how you wrap that up. That is so true. We just negotiated giving terrorists back to a country that is possibly one of the 2 biggest funders of terrorists in the Middle East. And we just literally gave them their terrorists back in exchange for our soldiers. I believe, our soldiers shouldn't have been there for 4 years. We should have bombed the hell out of Iran a long time ago.
Amen.
Any of their government or military compounds or facilities. But that's just my opinion. Our weak president obviously doesn't see things the same way. He backtracks a lot. It doesn't matter if these regimes use chemical weapons on their people or if they enslave their people or it doesn't matter. What really matters is saving face for our president. And I believe now, I'm just going to say it. I believe if the president is so bold as to give back terrorists to a country that damn sure doesn't deserve to get terrorists back, those terrorists deserve to be sitting in a jail cell somewhere. If he's so bold as to do that, I challenge him to get off of his high horse and to come down there and to meet you guys and to come down there and to bring some kind of peaceful resolution to actually talk about this situation in the open. But I know that challenge will go unmet. Yeah, because we're dealing with a group of people that have immense power, but behind that power they hide behind their cowardice.
Well, those terrorists they released actually went through the full due process under the Constitution. They were prosecuted under the Constitution. They went through the process as we're supposed to do, and they were still released in a negotiation. But the Constitution and the due process failed the Hammonds, and no one will set them free. That's sad.
It's sad. It's truly a failure of our national policy and also our local government policies. Whenever you can have a constitutional hearing and people are tried and convicted and they're actually serving their sentence and doing their time, for that sentence to just be commuted and just say, hey, we're going to let you go and going back home, no hard feelings, nothing like that. And then we only get back some of our people. I don't know what to really call that besides stupidity. There's no other thing that I can really call it besides absolute stupidity. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's a shame that we can't do the same thing for the Hammonds because, we already know the issue going on there with the double jeopardy. I mean, they've already went to jail one time. There's no reason for them to be going back to jail for charges that are just erroneous at best. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just agreeing with you. Absolutely, it's just sad. We're so wrapped up in our international affairs with Iran and all these other countries for whatever reason. When you have a president, I suppose that's where he tends to go. We can't even take care of our own Americans right here who have truthfully been wronged by and had their constitutional rights violated. Double jeopardy. I mean,
and that's exactly why you guys are there, is because listeners, you need to understand one thing, and this is really kind of the top, if you will, and I'm sure Brandon will agree. The reason why all of this is happening is because whenever you petition your government and there's no higher level to answer that petition and that petition goes unanswered and there's no one else to give it to that's higher than the federal government, then what do you do? What do you do? That is the million dollar question here. And the answer is what you see these fine gentlemen doing out here right now, the Idaho 3%ers. You stand up and you say, wait a second, if there's no recourse for the actions that the federal government has set out, then we have to be that recourse for action. We are the defenders of the Constitution. Do you agree with me, Brandon?
100%.
Absolutely. Well, listen, is there anything else that you'd like for us to get out there for our listeners and just to, educate the public anymore? I'm sure we'll have a future update. Especially as more things come out with the investigation into this, into this pretty much crooked judge that's padding his pockets from these special interest groups. Is there anything else, though, today that you'd like to go ahead and get out to our listeners?
Yeah, two things if I could. Just the same as last time, just give a plug for our donations. These guys that are going out there, they're doing it on their own time. We try to fund their fuel and food and lodging. Especially in the wintertime, it's imperative that we have them in hotels. But if you like to donate to what we're doing and keep these guys going, our website is www.iii%idaho.org. That's iii%idaho.org. There's a donate link at the top. All donations are greatly appreciated, whether it's $5, $20, it all helps. It all adds up.
That's right. That's right.
And finally, I just want to say, we just need people to stand up. The time is not now to be sitting on your hands or sitting behind your keyboard. And if you're wondering what's going on, I implore you to get up and go to Burns and come take that stand. Absolutely. And help this community have a voice, because it only takes one courageous, bold, loud voice to get others to do the same. And we need people there to do that. We need leadership. We need leaders there to set the example. Now's the time not to talk about it. Now's the time to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Brandon, I thank you again for coming on the All Rights Matter show on Anon Radio Live and giving us, a small piece of the reality that's actually going on there. And it's beautiful to actually hear the cohesiveness that's actually being garnered by your group, the Idaho 3%ers, and also other groups that are in cooperation with you guys. So it's a wonderful thing to hear that even just to hear your voice and to know that you're healthy, you're as happy as can be given the present circumstances, and that you guys are still driving forward, that you're staying focused on what the mission is and the narrative is, and to get that open level of communication. So, we commend you guys, and we definitely look forward to the next time with you guys coming on. I would ask our listeners also to visit www.anonradio.live. If you don't type it in, your address bar, just go to Google and type in Anon Radio Live, or you can go to YouTube and type in Anon Radio Live, where we'll have this broadcast actually posted on our channel. So, again, thank you, Brandon, for coming into the All Rights Matter show and giving us the reality of the situation there on the ground. And we can't, wait to talk to you again.
Well, thanks for having me here. And I want to say thank you to Anon Radio and what you guys are doing, and All Rights Matter show. You guys are getting the real information out, the facts, and allowing people like myself to get you the facts. And without you guys doing what you do, we couldn't do what we do. So thank you.
Oh, no problem. Hey, listen, I also want to close out by telling you one thing. I just actually got an update. We have an affiliate. There's a whole organization, just like you guys have organizations on the ground there. We have an organizations around Anon Radio Live too. And one of our sites, of course, is my own site, whoissincere.com. But another site that we have, which is a brilliant site by one of our, someone that has actually helped us to build this to what it is. He's an amazing man. I don't want to really say his name. I don't know if he's comfortable with me saying it, but I'll tell you this. Uncorporate Media is the name of one of our affiliates, and we're going to be having somebody out there actually on the ground on Wednesday, from what I'm reading from our updates now. Uncorporate Media is sending a reporter to that area, so we'll be filling you in with the details of that, so that you can actually meet up with one of our guys on the ground there. And we look forward to hearing more things from you in the future, Brandon. And you guys just stay safe out there. You stay with your spirits high, and if you have nothing else, we'll be talking to you the next time.
All right, man. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you for all your support. And as soon as we get some more information, I'll let you know so we can get it out to the listeners.
All right. Thanks a lot. You guys stay safe out there. Hey, guys, make sure you tune in to Anon Radio Live. Make sure you also download the app. We have an app, so you guys could keep it on your cell phone. You can get an immediate update to the app, letting you know when we're going live, because, listen, we're Anon Radio Live. We can go with our normal schedule, but situations like this, when we're dealing with prominent folks like Brandon Curtis and what he's doing out there, we go live at the drop of a dime. So make sure you download that app so you can stay in the loop and you can get the information first. Brandon, we thank you for coming on. You guys make sure you visit Brandon's website there. That's say that website for us again, Brandon.
It's www.III spelled out Idaho.org. So Idaho.org.
And there's a donation button at the top of the page, guys. Make sure you utilize that donation button. Let's stand up for freedom, and let's make sure that we support these guys and girls that are out there that are standing up in places that we may not be able to reach, but they're there for us. So with that being said, the All Rights Matter show will conclude with that. We thank you, Brandon, and we'll talk to you guys the next time.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right.